Hey everyone, I thought today we'd be taking a look at Olive. Olive is a free open source video editor and it's currently in alpha, but so far I've been extremely impressed with it, what's available out the box. So let's have a little play. Now I have manipulated these windows to move them around a bit. By default the preview sequencer viewer is over this side and the properties are in the middle. I prefer having my preview in the middle there and the properties over here. So I'm going to reload a project that I've been playing with, and basically I've replicated my Salient OS install video and I've applied a few different effects in that, but I'll walk through what I've done so it's more obvious. And so far this is proving to be extremely stable, more so than Kdenlive, which is very, very surprising. Now I'm used to both. I'm used to Kdenlive, I'm used to OpenShot, TV, all of them. I've tried all of the open source offerings. As you can see, these, the content here is quite large. There's 2 large videos here, over 1 gigabyte. We've got the intro movie. We've got the introduction screen. That's the intro movie, and I've applied some effects to this as well, which are very useful effects as well, very nice. I'm applying a slight vignette around this now. And also doing, oh no, it's taken it off. Let's have a look. That's just a transform, cross dissolve, volume, vignette. Let's see if I can bring that back again, because that was really cool. I'm going to try and remember what plugin it was. See, we have the free all plugins available, and that's all of them, which are obviously available in Kdenlive as well. But we have them available to us in Olive, because they're installed to the system. We can utilize that. There's some very interesting effects in here. We do color correction. Yeah, I think it might have been color correction. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. So what I was doing, I was playing around with the tint. You can see this change in real time as I do this. You move this slider, I can change it more towards a cold, more warm, and somewhat close back to neutral. But what I was playing with here was the saturation, and I wanted to bring that up a little bit. If I play that back now, you'll see some of these light leaks that are happening there. There you go. See, the saturation now is much more intensified, whereas before it was quite subtle, and I really like the effect of that. So I'm gonna leave that in there. I'm gonna change that to 300. There, just adds a bit of colour, which is very nice. Also, the audio, if I just collapse this now, I've taken the audio down to -12. Let's change that again. I'm going to change that down to -15 dB. So it's not loud. There we go. So compared to this, unfortunately it doesn't give me a visual representation here of what's happening, which is a shame because it's nice to see this waveform change.
Hey everyone.
As you can hear the difference there.
Today we're going to go on through
in audio levels. So there's a couple of cross dissolves and they're very easy to add. You just come across here and choose cross dissolve, and I think that's the only effect available at the moment other than these itemized effects. Actual video effects, the only thing available to me is cross dissolve at the moment. This is the latest version of Olive, compiled from source. You see it's the March 2019. This is compiled directly from their source, so natively it's going to be running super efficiently on this hardware because it's been compiled for this hardware. So basically all I've done is I've dropped in the intro movie, a static image, and I've added these text overlays. Here we go, the rich text. If we go into edit text, you can see them. This is the only thing I don't quite like about this is that this little box here is obviously too small to display the entire text. You know, it would be better if this just displayed all of the text and not size up like this area here. This is fine, but you have to, another little idiosyncrasy, you have to select the entire text before you can change the font and before you can change the size, otherwise it doesn't have any effect whatsoever, which is a little frustrating, but there we are, that is what it is. But obviously you have all these lovely controls, positional controls. You can see that moving in real time there on the screen. So you've got pretty good fine-grained control over positional elements and things like that. Scaling, you can add shadows to the text and things like that. Shadow offsets. There's the other line there, using Olive for video editing. So similar format to how I do in DaVinci Resolve, but replicated in Olive. I mean, obviously there's going to be slight differences because the limited effects available. Video, clip effects, I mean, going between different clips. DaVinci has a plethora of different effects I can apply between clips, but it looks like all we've got at the moment is standard cross dissolve, and I'm sure that's going to improve over time. There's a couple of things not 100% keen on. I think we can resize these. Yeah, we can. So we can resize these to get previews, which is very nice. I'm not sure about the audio. We can get a better handle on the waveform, which is nice. It would just be nice if there were more controls in these areas, like DaVinci has, for example. I have little handles where I can fade in and all sorts of things like that. There's a little bar in the middle where I can just click and drag it to raise and lower the volume. Things like this would be really, really useful. But so far, this is really, really impressive. And that in the middle there, look, that drags the whole thing up and down. So if you have multiple clips, you can get a handle on what you're working with. And obviously you can resize these to take previews away or keep previews. Really, really nice features already out of the box. And this is, bearing in mind, this is still alpha. And so far it's proven to be extremely stable. I've not had a single crash with it, which is very, very impressive given the current state of the software. And the zoom, you can do that on the middle wheel, which is very nice. Very responsive, very quick, and obviously the cursor again is very, very similar to DaVinci. Wherever you click and you zoom, it will try to auto center, and that becomes the focus. Obviously, depending on where you are in the timeline, but by default, if you're zooming in and out until it gets back to the position it was in, it will try and center in the timeline, which is lovely. I'm used to that workflow now, which is very good. So we can jump back quickly, zoom in. That will stay in the focus there, look, until it comes back, and then it will change position. But whilst we're zooming, that's our focal area. So very, very nice. One thing that surprised me a lot, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to render this out, and I'm going to let you see it happen in real time. This is the video I created in DaVinci Resolve. And okay, it's a MOV container, so it's going to be a bit bigger anyway. But that's 1.9 gigabytes. That's what I uploaded to YouTube yesterday. Okay? So what I'm going to do now I'm going to do an export as MPEG-4 video, the entire sequence, lib264, h264, avc, MPEG-4, blah blah blah. And there are various formats you can choose from. It's automatically chosen this frame rate to render at, so I'm not going to play with that. So it's quality based constant rate factor, and the quality rate, I could take the quality down. Lower is higher quality. I'm going to do 21 on that. It's using YUV 420p. Now I could up that, but for now I'm going to leave it as it is. Yeah, I'm not going to play with those at the moment. I'm just going to do a default export. Automatically detects the threads, so I could tell it 8 threads, as I have 8 threads in this machine. AAC codec, that's fine at 48 256 bit rate, that's nice. So I want to tell it to export this, and let's put it in the videos, and let's tell it olive test.mp4. Save. Right, so this is now rendering. You can see there it's claiming 15 minutes or so, 16 minutes. This will change, it varies quite a bit. Now I have dropped down the quality CRF from 36 to 21, so this may actually take a bit longer than normal. But the very surprising thing, whilst that's rendering, if I come back here, this is the video I did. Right, so get a handle on the quality here. I mean, the text items are extremely crisp, very, very crisp indeed. So this is a high quality video.
There's another video.
And what I want to do, I'm going to do a comparison afterwards. Once this is rendered out, we'll take a look and see what Olive has produced. Like you can see, that's dropped right down. That's taken 10 minutes off of it already, so it does speed up the further it gets into the file. And there's not, to be honest, there's not a lot of movement in this file. Visually speaking, I mean, there's not a lot of movement on screen. So it should render quite quickly anyway. What I'll do, I'll pause here, and I'll come back in a second once this is finished rendering, and I'll show you the file size difference. Okay, so we're back. As you can see, it's got a few seconds left to go. That has taken a little while to do this. I'm assuming because I've changed the quality from 36 down to 21. But this should produce a higher quality file. But I'm more interested in to see the final output file size. And once this is done, we'll start a new project, and I'll go back through this process of adding clips into the media pool. And it seems to support many formats. As you can see, there's a .mov, we've got JPEGs, we have 2 different MOVs there, and this is the sequence that gets created once you have items on the timeline. So that's essentially the timeline. As you can see, it's sequence 1. So okay, that's rendered. There's Olive Test, 169 megabytes. 1.9 gigabytes, 169 megabytes. Let's have a look. The additional saturation on this video, which is good, and that's a pre-rendered video. Text quality looks superb.
Hey everyone. Today we're going to run through.
Let's just turn that volume down. But as you can see, it looks almost indistinguishable from the original video I made in DaVinci Resolve. Very impressed. Now, there is a caveat with using DaVinci Resolve in the way that I have, is that I'll just let that carry on playing in the background. there is a process I have to go through in order to get my media into DaVinci Resolve, and I've shown that in the video. I'm using those same settings now in Simple Screen Recorder because I thought I would be using DaVinci Resolve to render this video, but now this video that I'm making right now, I'm going to be rendering in Olive to give it a go, because so far it's been extremely impressive. So let's create a new project. Let's clear that. Yes, I do want to save the changes, thank you. Now by default, these items are this way round. So if I pull that back to there and drop that in there, this is how it looks by default. And obviously the theme is actually slightly different there because it's normally olive dark, like this. But I'm not keen on that look. I like the native system look. Although this is highly usable, highly functional. It's just personal preference. I prefer to use the native theming from the system, so it's consistent in look and feel for me. So what I'm going to do, because I prefer these windows in the way that I do, and you can see this is up. We don't want the sequence viewer there. We want the sequence viewer in the middle. And let's detach that one and put that should be a tab now. There we go. So if we move that over there a little bit, so this is our sequence viewer in the middle, timeline area down the bottom here, media pool here, and the properties and effects dialog there. So media view is basically a preview window, and I can see why they did it this way round. What might be more useful actually is to have that embedded in here, so we have the sequence view and the media view. So as we pull items into here, let's do the same video so everything's identical, and we're going to import from my projects folder the movie, intro movie, and from my images folder we'll pull in the salient JPEG again. Right, so there's our media clips, and you can change the size of these thumbnails. You can change it to list view if you prefer. I prefer to see visual representations of the clips. That's just the way I prefer to work. And this is the media viewer, okay, not the sequence. So the media viewer lets you preview. If you double click.
Okay, so it's almost finished now.
Okay, so this just gives us a preview. That's not actually the final. The final would be in the sequence, and the sequence will only appear when you have material on the timeline. So if I bring the intro movie down, just drag and drop, we can zoom with the middle mouse wheel. I'm going to bring this image down, and this has very similar snapping as DaVinci does. You can see it snaps to that edge, which is very nice. And we'll bring the first video, and you can split these as well. You can have these on different tracks. It's exceptional. That's exactly the way that DaVinci works. You can actually split that, and you can see that the video and audio are moving in concert with each other. And snapping, again, very, very good. So if I just zoom that right in now, I can bring that last clip back there, snap it to that again, and then drop this image. It's very small at that scale. So again, you bring the cursor over, that becomes the focal area, and then we can very easily bring that over. So this works in a very similar way to DaVinci Resolve, where this cursor will try to center itself in the timeline until the position overrides its position in the timeline. But whilst we're zooming, until we reach the point where it reverts back to its original position, which is very similar. Now if I go to the sequence viewer, now as I step through these, you can see it jumps. That's actually stepping through. So this is where we do our effects. So if I position the cursor here, for example, and play this sequence, let's just turn the volume down a little bit loud. Right, so again, with this sequence, I don't really want this to be blaring out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop the audio down. Now you can left and right. This is very similar to DaVinci in that it's waiting for you to move your mouse left and right. But if you want more fine-grained control, if you click on it, you get this dialog come up. And I'm going to drop that down to -15. And now that should be a lot lower in the mix, which it is. So on this clip now, I would like to have a cross dissolve, which is done there. And on this JPEG image, I would also like to have a cross dissolve so that it fades from one to the other. And now if we play that back, cross dissolve. But I want to do a little bit more on this one here. On the color, I want to do a color correction. And I just want to play with the saturation a little bit. I'm going to take that up to about 300 because I liked the effect that gave on the light leaks coming through. There you go, a bit more color. Very nice indeed. That's really nice. I like that. Right, so text is a little bit more awkward in this application, but it's still very usable. And we can minimize these now because we don't need to see all of them. We don't need to see that transform either. But what I would like to do is add a text, and that's a render. We go to rich text, and that adds sample text. And as you can see, that's now in the middle of the screen. So if I open up the editor, highlight the text, because you have to highlight it in order for these changes to take effect. And I'm going to drop down to Techo. And I'm going to take this up to 66. Okay, and there we go, that's taken effect. And now we can drag this across, and we can drag this down. So we're just creating a lower third here. So in here, if I can spell. So we have that, so we can drag that over a bit more. I want to try and create the same uniform gap either side there. And probably take that up a little bit there. That's good. So I'm happy with that one. So now I'm going to create another one. Go to render, rich text. So you can, that drops into the middle. And so I'm going to select all of that text again. I think you can override this by just typing. You can. Let's take it on Olive, Techo, the font. So if I bring that over, I can then drop that down. And all of these things are keyframeable. You can keyframe everything in here, which is really, really good. Really nice features indeed. So I'm just going to scale that up slightly. It's a shame that's not real time there. That would be nice if it was real time. No, that's too big. That's a little bit finicky, that, so I'm going to get more control over it that way. A little bit bigger. Just a touch bigger. See, it would be nice if that was real time. I could see that in the preview window here then. That'll do. as it's just an example anyway. All we're trying to do is replicate the previous video. There we go. So that's that done. So we've got two rich text items, and you can see we've got two items there. And we have cross dissolve, we have a transform. The transform is just the default position as it comes in. So that's that bit done. We don't want that on there. For some reason it added that to that. So we don't want rich text on that clip. But that should apply to this image here. And it has. So I probably could, if I played around with the settings a bit more. I can't see an overall opacity for the initial text, like to do a fade in. There is on the shadow, there's a shadow opacity, but I can't see an initial setting for this. But we can do auto scrolling as well, which is really cool. And we can turn the shadow on and off, things like that. I'm going to run without a shadow at the moment. But auto scroll, interesting. Let's see what that does. No, that's going to have to be animated, obviously. We turn that off for now. I mean, this is the first time looking at this application. I haven't done anything with this before. We can change the opacity. I think that's the overall opacity, though. Yeah, it is. It'd be nice if we had opacity on individual items too, especially on rich text items. I can't really see. I could manipulate the position and have that slide in. So we could try that. And I believe the keyframing happens over here. So if I set a keyframe for that, I should have done that back there, but never mind. I can move that keyframe to there. Let it play. Bring that back into position. And then set another keyframe. Oh, no, I don't want to disable them. I think that auto added it. Yes, it did. That's nice. There you go. You can see that slide in. So we can do effects using the keyframe system. That's okay. I'll leave that there for now. I was just playing with that then. So let's move that back over. And if we move that back over there like that. So do we have a zoom available in there? No. So those are the keyframes. You can see there's that first one there. And this has its own timeline, as you can see, which also corresponds to the timeline below. It would be nice if we had a keyframe channel down here so that we could see the keyframe for a particular clip rather than have it in a separate window. Or maybe I can separate that. No, that separates the entire thing. Yeah, that's okay. It is what it is. It would be nice to have this in a separate area. But there we are. It is what it is. So, on this clip now, I want a nice cross dissolve. So that fades into that one as well. There we go.
Yeah.
And if I zoom this out, there's these clips here. I think that may already have one. It does. So
That one is further down the line.
And that's just jumped. So on this one, I'm going to do a cross dissolve as well. So that will cross dissolve,
down the line.
fade out, fade in.
Okay, so it's all.
There we go. If I hit the end key, this is the same navigation as DaVinci, home and end, beginning and end. So this is doing a cross dissolve across there, but that's just snapping, so we want a cross dissolve on there as well. And we can change the duration as well, so you can smooth that cross dissolve if you need to. But that's okay. So, as I always do, I'm going to do a render rich text. Select all of that. Come down to Techo, not Techo like yet, Techo, that'll do. Is that big enough? Let's take that up to, say, 42. Let's just do a thanks for watching. That can be a lot bigger than that as it goes. Let's try 60 odd. In fact, we could probably match that other text size over there. Let's try around 80. Yeah, that'll do. So we can drag that over there. Let's try and balance that so they're roughly the same. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. And we could probably make that bold. And then that should fade to black. There we go. So if we bring this all back into focus, and we can give that a play through.
Hey everyone.
There we go. So there we have it. That is recreating a video I did yesterday in DaVinci Resolve, replicating that in Olive. So if I save this now, save project as, I have an Olive folder set up now, because I'm going to be utilizing Olive. So I'm going to put this one together now, and I'm going to use Olive to put it together and upload it to YouTube. And I'm going to be interesting to see what the quality difference is once YouTube is finished doing what it does to videos. So I'm going to end this one here, and in a few minutes I will upload this to YouTube and we can do a comparison possibly. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you very much.